Hi, I'm Kathy from Stitch It Together. Today I want to talk to you about a free program. It's called Quilters Playground. It's run by the Grace Company, and again, it is free. And whether you're a long arm quilter or someone just into quilting, it is great education. You never really know what you're going to learn in each one of these sessions, but I always come away learning something. So whether you use Grace products or not, check it out. I'm going to put down in the comments the link to register. But I want to tell you a little bit about the one that was last night. Last night they talked about using Minky as your backing. And I always learn things from this, and one of the things that I'm going to take away from this is to use some painter's tape on the back before I cut away. That's going to keep me from having all the mess that you get from using the Minky, and I'm going to try that. I'll let you know how it goes. But I also want to touch on one more thing. So one of the questions that was asked last night in the Quilters Playground was a question that I actually hear an awful lot. There seems to be a lot of confusion about what center point placement is and 4-point placement. And Carla started to describe the difference between the two, and I just wanted to piggyback just a little bit more on the difference between 4-point placement and center point placement. And there is no right or wrong. Personally, I always use, once I learned how to use the 4-point placement, that's all I use anymore. There might be times that I would still think to use center point placement, but I only use 4-point placement now, and I wanted to explain to you the difference. So let me turn the camera around and show you what the differences are. With QCT, placement is when you help QCT understand where they're going to place on your frame and stitch out the pantograph that you have designed. And you have different choices for how you show QCT where to place it on your quilt. And one of those methods is called center point placement. And that is where you enter in your width, let's say that it's 45 inches, and then either you find the center or you have QCT help you find the center of where 45 degrees is, and then, or 45 inches is, and from there, when you show QCT where that placement node is, the width of that pantograph is going to be 45 inches. And it's going to be 45 inches no matter where you place this node. So if you were to place it over here, it's going to be half of 45 this way and half of 45 this way. And if you were to shift this just a little bit either way, it's going to shift your pattern. But no matter what you do, it's still going to be 45 inches. The distance is not going to change. As you continue through the zones in your quilt, QCT will always show you where the center is, and you only have to roll up your quilt and then show QCT where the center mark is. And so nothing is going to change in terms of the width of your pantograph, and it's always going to be 45 inches. No matter where you put that dot, it will be half of 45 this way and half of 45 this way, depending on where you put that center dot. Now, 4-point placement works a little bit differently. Now, with 4-point placement, it is going to shift your pattern just a little bit, so it's not going to really matter what you put into the width. And the 4-point is kind of a misnomer, because really, you really only have to place 2 points in order to get this to work, and that's what most people do. They mostly there would be reasons to place all 4 points, but mostly you only have to place 2. And instead of being in the center of the quilt, you're going to put it, at least when you start, you're either going to put it on the corners of your quilt, right here, or just outside it if you want your pantograph to go over and off the edges of your quilt. You would want to show 2 markings right on the outside up and on the outside of each of your corners. And then from there on, QCT is going to show you 2 points, not 4, just 2 points that you will place again and again. So, and how that is going to work is that if you have exactly 45 inches, that's great, but most of the time you're not. And so what's going to happen is if you're a little bit smaller than 45 or a little bit larger than 45, when you place these 2 nodes, QCT is going to adjust that distance for you, and you're not going to have to change anything. So as quilts are very flexible and imperfect things, even when they're perfectly beautiful, they can be imperfect. You're going to be able to adjust for the changes or the width, not the height, but the width by these two dots right here, by the markings. And so if you're bigger than 45 and it will be bigger than that. And if then it's shorter, it will be a little bit smaller than that. But you have control over it. Also, if you are rolling your quilt and it rolls just a little bit unevenly, then you're going to still be able to have perfect placement with your nesting vertically this way, because it will automatically adjust for any distance differences in the width-wise with the left and the right when you place those two nodes. Now you can place the C and the D corners, that's what they're called, C and D, and there would be reasons to do that I won't go into right now, but the usual ways that you want to, or the settings that you want to have this on, is you want to unlock the width. I think by default it's not locked. That is what allows the QCT to make the difference in the width, to make that adjustment, is when that one is unchecked. But you do want to keep the lock height clicked. By default, that one is always clicked. Now there will be reasons to undo this one at the end of your quilt, but not usually at the beginning. And I just wanted to note that for you. But I usually use the 4-point placement and not the center point placement, because I get better results, particularly as there are just imperfections in perfectly beautiful quilts. So I hope this helped explain the difference between 4-point and center point placement. And if you have any questions, 540-840-2884. Have a great day.